Welcome to the Exit Coach Radio Show, the show for baby boomer business owners who are looking for cutting-edge information as they plan their 3 to 10-year business succession and exit. Every week, we interview top professional advisors for their best tips, strategies, and precautions so you can be well planned. And don't miss our 1-minute Exit Coach tip of the day on exitcoachradio.com. And now, here's your host, the Exit Coach, Bill Black.
Thanks so much for joining us. It is such a pleasure to have you. I'm sorry I'm losing my voice. I was just in Denver giving a speech for about an hour, and I think I overdid it. It doesn't matter because you're still going to want to grab a notepad and a pencil for our next guest. She is Jillian Murphy from the Syncretics group in Madison, Connecticut. And Jillian is in the business of leadership and teamwork, and she's going to talk about critical strategies for success at the edge. Jillian, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on. Tell us a little bit about this Syncretics group, and including how you got the name for the company, because I've never heard that word before, but it sounds fascinating.
Sure. So the Syncretics group, we're a consulting firm, and we specialize in leadership and in teamwork. And we have a pretty unique approach that I'll tell you a little bit more about. But basically, we offer leadership and executive coaching. We do some team development work, and then we also have these very unique presentations and programs based on adventure stories, and that's where the edge concept comes into play. So our foundation is using these really, really cool and compelling adventure stories, so true, dramatic life or death situations, and using those as a lens for looking at leadership and teamwork. And our strategy was that if we could see what leaders and teams at the edge did to survive, we could apply the same strategies to the business world and to help some leaders and teams who are dealing with really, really tough situations in today's business climate.
How do you choose which adventures to research and use for specific types of clients?
So we have 2 books and 2 flagship stories and programs. The first is the Shackleton Saga, the story of the Endurance Expedition, which took place from 1914 to 1916. And many are familiar with Lansing's book, The Endurance. But it's basically this incredible survival story. They were stranded in Antarctica. Their ship had been crushed thousands of miles away from civilization, and they survived. These men survived 634 days in the frozen South. And believe it or not, they all made it back. It's this incredible, unbelievable, inspiring story of triumph. And they all made it 634 days because they pulled together as a crew. And the leader, Ernest Shackleton, really exhibited some remarkable leadership characteristics and qualities that we draw into our presentations and we outline in our book, Leading at the Edge. And
this all happened back in 1914, you say?
Correct. So it was 1914 and lasted just up until 1916, so quite the ordeal. But as I said, they all did survive. And then we actually have a newer, more contemporary story. If you fast forward to 1998, we have a new program on teamwork and a new adventure based on offshore ocean racing, and in particular the Sydney to Hobart race. And we chronicle one crew that won this unbelievable race where they were struck by a hurricane. It's the crew of the AFR Midnight Rambler. And we dive in and we look at this team. How did this team of amateur sailors beat out the professionals on highly, highly technical, large boats like Larry Ellison and Oracle? So how did they survive this hurricane? And then how did they beat all the other competition and win the race? And with that story, the book is called Into the Storm, but we outline the behaviors, the teamwork strategies that crew used to not only make it through the life or death situations, but to ultimately beat all their competition.
Okay, so you break it down to leadership and teamwork based on those 2 phenomenal stories. I want to hear more about those for the rest of the interview, but we don't have time for that. So how do you? I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff. What are some of the 10 strategies for success that you share with your clients?
We have different strategies for leaders and for teams, although there are concepts that obviously apply to both. So for our leadership at the Edge strategies, some of the concepts include things like setting a long-term vision, optimism and reality, stamina, the team message, risk, and of course tenacious creativity. So that belief that you will make it, never give up, there's always another move. You know, throughout all these adventures that we've studied, that's obviously a core underlying belief throughout all these crews. And then in terms of the teamwork, we have another set of strategies. Again, they're similar but a little bit different because it's from that team perspective. So we talk about things like dealing with conflict, things like staying connected, cutting through the noise of the wind and the waves, so using those metaphors, but challenges and strategies that are particularly relevant to teams or crews of people in today's business world.
I would think that would just be fascinating to learn about these tremendous stories and you know, all the odds that they were up against. And like you said, I circled one thing that you said is tenacious creativity, the ability to say, okay, doesn't look good, but here's what we're going to do, here's what we've got to do. We don't really have a choice. Let's employ this strategy and make our way through this. Now, are there particular groups that these strategies work for best?
Well, the great thing about the books and the programs is that they are really universal lessons. These are universal strategies that work for people. We've written the books for leaders and teams. However, regardless of your industry or your level within a company, these are strategies that work for everyone. And at the Syncretics Group, we work with a pretty diverse group of clients. So we have big Fortune 50 companies. We have government groups. I work with, small nonprofit groups doing some pro bono work. I'm even doing the same Shackleton, the Leading at the Edge program. I do it for children. And of course, it's a little bit different format, but the strategies that are outlined really are applicable to all of us. And we hear from clients throughout the world just saying that they saw the presentation 10 years ago and they have these strategy cards on their desk, on their monitor, and they're using them every day. These are things that we can really use in our daily lives.
Yeah, it just sounds fascinating. What's some of the feedback you've gotten from some business owners after they've heard and worked with all of this kind of thing?
The fun thing about these stories is that it really puts our business challenges into perspective. You may think you're having a tough day, and of course you have challenges and setbacks, but once you hear about this crew of Shackleton and his men who were stranded, in 1914, so you don't have a cell phone, you don't have GPS, your wooden ship has been crushed, you're eating penguins for dinner, sailing these tiny wooden boats to reach land, it really does put things into perspective pretty quickly. And that's something fun with working with clients. They can, first of all, have a good laugh about it because it's a story, it's a metaphor, it's engaging. We all like stories. As humans, we connect with them on that emotional level. So not only are they engaging, but they do give you something to think about, and they put things into perspective. I had one client actually, this is a business example in terms of dollars, but she said that she applied the 10 strategies for success over the course of the project, and they helped move the percentage of lost information from 13.8% to 5.1%, saving the company $48 million. So
wow.
That's a pretty extreme example, but it's a good one.
Based on what you've seen and what you've learned with using these and working with business owners, what are some tips or ideas or precautions you could give business owners that would help them with their particular business situations? There's
3. We do have 10 strategies for each, for leaders and for teams, but there were 3 that stood out to me when I thought about your listeners and this great show. And the first was vision and victories. So this strategy is all about setting that long-term goal, yet focusing the energy on short-term objectives. I think as leaders, we have this tendency to be so fixated on the large goal, that big, audacious goal, that we often forget to set up short-term goals to keep teams engaged and energized and to be really clear about what the steps are that will get everyone to their final destination. So in the case of Shackleton, when their ship was crushed, he made a clear plan. He told them they were going to march for open water. He told them they were going to travel light. Everyone knew the plan, and it was constantly changing, which is normal for today's business climate as well. But the fact that everyone knew what those steps were, both the long-term and the short-term, was tremendously helpful.
And I like the fact that you said that's vision and victories, plural. Right?
Plural,
it's the victories along the way towards the vision. So very good. I just wanted to point that out. What else?
So another strategy, now that we're talking about that, it brings up the strategy of finding something to celebrate and something to laugh about. We call this one lighten up. You know, times are serious. We're under a lot of pressure as leaders. This strategy is about celebrating those short-term wins. Even if you don't reach that ultimate goal yet, it's about celebrating the little milestones and acknowledging the success of the team, the business, fellow leaders. We found that companies who are able to kind of rally around one another, point out successes, the momentum is so much greater for the long term. So this is a really important one.
I like that quite a bit because it is important for the morale of the group, and I've heard that numerous times, that how you react to things, everybody's watching. If you're the leader, everybody's watching.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of companies, they think it needs to be some big, grand event, but the reality is it can be a small, let's grab a pizza because we just hit a goal, something casual. It doesn't need to be big, but just the fact that you're celebrating, that you're having some fun, that you're laughing, it's so powerful. So the other strategy I thought of was optimism and reality. So this was illustrated really well in the Shackleton saga, and it's all about instilling optimism and self-confidence, but staying grounded in reality. So it's a two-part strategy. Yes, you want to be optimistic, committed to the goal, believing that you can achieve it, that you will make it, but at the same time, staying grounded in reality. For the Shackleton adventure, they always knew their current position, even looking at maps and charts when they were traveling in circles or even backwards when the reality isn't so pleasant. But it's having those facts and knowing that the facts are friendly. They're going to help you get to that ultimate goal. But again, you want to balance it with this optimism. So two parts. Yes, stay positive, but know where you are, know the reality.
Those are really powerful tips. And Jillian, I'm really happy that you came onto the show to talk to us in the area of Vistage. You do a lot of Vistage talks, I see, right, with Vistage groups?
I do,
and,
yes.
They're very valuable. For those that don't know, Vistage International is a CEO peer group where groups of CEOs get together to learn how to make themselves better by listening to speakers like Jillian Murphy in the Syncretics group. And Jillian, how do our listeners get in touch with you if they want to learn more about how to engage your services?
They can visit our website, which is Syncretics Group, spelled SYNCRETICS group.com, and they can also follow me on Twitter at JBMURF. I'd be happy to be in touch with anyone. My email's on the website as well as my phone.
It's a fascinating approach, and again, they have 2 books on Amazon, Leading at the Edge, Leadership Lessons from the Extraordinary Saga of Shackleton's Antarctic Expedition, and Into the Storm, Lessons in Teamwork from the Treacherous Sydney to Hobart Ocean Race. Don't those sound like fascinating topics for your group? Tell me where you're going to be next. I'll be there. I want to hear about this stuff. Jillian, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been fascinating, and I look forward to the next time we speak.
Great. Thank you so much.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this, so please stay with us. Does thinking about what will happen to your business if you're gone keep you awake at night? Will you get the price you need from your business to carry you through retirement? The BEI Network of Exit Planning Professionals is the world's leading advisor network with the power to help business owners transition out of business on their own timeline and terms. Ask your most trusted advisor to create a BEI plan for you, or visit us at exitplanning.com. That's exitplanning.com.
You're listening to ExitCoachRadio.com, the information station for age 50-plus business owners, where we're interviewing top advisors for their best tips, ideas, and precautions, so you can be well planned. We upload new 1-minute tips every day. ExitCoachRadio.com. Come listen for a minute.
Thank you for listening to Exit Coach Radio.